People queuing up at borders, at least one man arrested, businesses preparing to shut in Melbourne again, more than 4 million people stocking up for a retreat back into lockdown. This is another extraordinary day in a bizarre and testing year. You would have to be the most blind partisan or the most sycophantic acolyte not to be cranky at Daniel Andrews and his government over the coronavirus outbreak that has seen suburbs locked down, whole tower blocks turned into isolation wards, now the whole of Melbourne locked down for 6 weeks, and the state's borders closed off like Berlin in the Cold War. It's a shocker. The pandemic is tough, the virus is virulent, but there's simply no doubt that the Andrews government's stuff-up of hotel quarantine for overseas returnees has fuelled this. There is just no doubt about the diagnosis. Victoria's quarantine bungling has been the biggest factor in creating this mess. And that's before you even get to street protests and undermining the public standards on social distancing. The Andrews government culpability is obvious. Just ask this small business owner.
I'm going to go out there. Dan should have just put his hand up yesterday. When he made his announcement, he should have resigned as well. He's pointing the finger at all us Victorians when a lot of us have been doing the right thing. He and his government have let us all down, and it's horrible. So Dan, please resign. Stand up and man up. Enough's enough. It's horrible.
Former AFL player there, Dimmer, not pulling his punches. Now, none of this means the rest of the country doesn't have sympathy, and it doesn't mean Victorians don't understand how easy it's been to make these mistakes, and it doesn't mean we don't all have to just crack on now and fix it.
It's happening in Melbourne now. Of course, there's always the risk it could happen in other cities, and every step is being taken to seek to prevent that wherever possible. But we're all Melburnians now when it comes to the challenges we face. We're all Victorians now because we're all Australians, and that's where the challenge is right now.
Ich bin ein Melburnian, hey? Fair enough. Politicians don't want to get into a federal-state blame game or a partisan battle when there's public health to consider. But nor should anyone else be denying reality, fuelling paranoia or running their own bizarre political conspiracy theories on the back of this crisis. Have a look at former ABC presenter and former ABC board member, in fact, and chief defender of the ABC, Quentin Dempster. He's taken to Twitter objecting to the Australians' headline treatment of Dan's COVID relapse, saying it was an attack on the Victorian Labor Premier, that this second wave could have happened anywhere, and calling the newspaper pathetic and un-Australian. These ABC types are so far to the loony left, so hyper-partisan, that they start screaming on Twitter because a newspaper reports the facts. But it gets worse. Former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd retweeted the Dempster rant, endorsing it with a query suggesting the Australian had let Peter Dutton off the hook without front-page takedowns over the Ruby Princess fiasco in Sydney. Yes, these people are so paranoid, so partisan, so delusional that they think a state government allowing infections to come out of quarantine is okay. Failing to test people coming out of quarantine is okay. And allowing unqualified private security guards to run and compromise quarantine is okay. They seriously argue that media focusing on these issues is a conspiracy. How on earth is this country going to overcome the pandemic without some proper accountability? And just to cover off on their bizarre media conspiracy theories, here's a sample of the Australian's front pages covering the Ruby Princess fiasco. Like the Victorian shambles, it was not a federal stuff-up, but a state government bungle. There were headlines and front-page commentary pieces excoriating the New South Wales coalition state government. Ruby shock, officials knew. Ship to shore, the Ruby horror. Border farce at porous ports. Aboard Princess of Disease, and so on and so forth. These people like Rudd and Dempster are sad, using a health crisis to advance their silly conspiracy, media, political yarns. And as you've seen, it's all in their heads. But remember, guys, just because you're paranoid, it doesn't mean the bastards aren't out to get you.